This fragrance makes you smell like a high-end, elegant drug dealer. Let's dive into it. Hello, welcome back to Seldomly Often. I'm Daniel. Today we're talking fragrances, and this is a practical review of Nasomatto's China White. These reviews are for fragrances I have a lot of experience with, multiple wears in many situations, and are meant to give you a general idea of what it feels to wear the fragrance. As per usual, I do a lot of research before buying fragrances these days, but I don't really like to go into details about notes and accords, as I don't really feel that it serves the end user. I'd rather talk about the wear experience as a whole. Another day, another Nasomatto. I have a ton of Nasomatto still to cover, so I decided to get right into it. These fragrances are somewhat complicated to talk about just because they're so abstract and so complex and weird. Today we're talking about Nasomatto China White. Alessandro Gualtieri is a perfumer for Nasomatto and Orto Parisi. I think he's a complete marketing genius. I think he's an actually genius perfumer. His creations are very edgy, very ironic, and very tongue-in-cheek. He is known for his controversial fragrances. His most popular for Nasomatto, for example, are Black Afghano, named after a popular, brand or variety of hashish. Then we have Sadonaso, which is sort of self-explanatory. Then we have China White, specifically for this video, which is apparently a variety of heroin. This is truly marketing at its best. It's designed to make people talk about the brand, talk about the fragrances, and ultimately this stuff drives sales. And if you think that something called Sadonaso would be a terrible sell for the brand, it's actually not. A lot of people are curious, and it's actually one of the more popular sells. And this is also true for another brand like État Libre d'Orange, where Sécrétion Magnifique is apparently a horrible fragrance, but it's known for its controversy, it's known for that thing, for that X factor, and it's actually one of the more popular from that brand also. So I really like Alessandro Gualtieri. I really like his approach both for Nasomatto and for Orto Parisi. That kind of approach can be a little bit fatiguing if you own many fragrances. It's like being told the same joke over and over again. But obviously this does not apply to the average user which owns one or two fragrances. It's really interesting, and I think it still feels novel. To me, I accept it. I accept Alessandro Gualtieri as this weird, quirky guy. His fragrances are fun. They're rather different from each other, actually. The ones that I have left to review are quite different. And this one here is definitely different from your typical oud, woody, and just dark fragrance. So I mentioned China White being a little bit different from the other Nasomatto, and in a way it is. But the truth is that Nasomatto has a variety of fragrances, and a good chunk of them are not heard of anywhere online. For example, China White is hardly talked about. You hardly ever hear something about Nudiflorum, which is another fragrance I have, which is super great. And also other great stuff like Silver Musk or the Venus one, the pink one, are barely talked about. And those actually really amplify and just extend the variety of the brand. China White is a discontinued fragrance. I bought it before it got discontinued. I was intrigued by the cap. Why I bought this, it wasn't because of the notes or anything, although I looked it up. It was mostly because of the idea of the fragrance name. I liked it. I thought it was funny actually. And then I liked that the cap really distinguished itself between the other ones I had. So yes, admittedly, very shallow reasoning to purchase this, but yeah, I found this at a really good price, and because it's unpopular, and I just got it. The Nasomatto bottles come all in the same size. These are all 30 ml extrait de parfum, very, very potent. They're known for their look, the tiny bottle with the huge caps, and I think they look generally great. So in particular, the caps for each perfume, they're very different, and they're all sort of handmade and different from each other in a unique way. Obviously, a cap like this, which is relatively simple, white, does not stand out much one from another. But actually, this cap is subtly complex because it is this white cap, but it's like you have this cracked paint under this transparent lacquer. So the crack pattern is completely, I would say, unique in a way. So from afar, it just looks like a white cap, and actually it looks just like a porcelain thing that just has been dropped and glued back together. I think it's really cool. I'm not really sure what it's made of. It must be some sort of a wood that's like painted and then intentionally cracked or something like that. But it looks good, it's heavy, and it just sits on tight. Speaking of cap, The Nasomatto come with an additional little cap made for travel, so you don't have to carry on this thing. I think it's a great idea and it works really well. The atomizers for Nasomatto are incredibly good. I don't really understand why Alessandro Gualtieri does not use the same atomizers for his Orto Parisi line. He should. These are exceptionally good. They spray well. They spray far. This is almost like benchmark quality. It's exceptionally good. Yeah, I think that the bottle design is absolutely great, really. He has his signature corner labeling. The label is stuck on really well, does not feel cheap at all. The bottle is beautiful, heavy, it's nice and squared off. The glass is this perfect combination of like really high quality, but still very fingerprint resistant. Again, zero complaints. All right, I guess we're done with this presentation. Let's dive into the scent profile because this is where things get interesting in my opinion. So to get it out there fast, this scent profile is really great, pretty mass appealing, and just generally very, very versatile. But let's get a little bit more into it. What does this smell like? What does China White smell like? Some people say it smells like heroin. Some people say it smells like drugs. I don't really agree. So I must say that I don't really have much experience with drugs whatsoever. So I have no idea what heroin would smell like. To be completely honest, this actually smells surprisingly similar to Amouage Reflection Man and Reflection 45. It's probably like somewhere in the middle in terms of like what it is. It's that kind of scent. So this is a white floral heavy scent. It's basically a jasmine scent. And it's a very strange jasmine scent because it's very dense, it's milky, it's clean, it's almost like hyper clean. So when I said in the intro, like elegant drug dealer, in a way you get this like hyper clean person that is just like really formal and he's selling you high-end drugs and he's well dressed and sort of like has a status to him. This fragrance sort of has a status. This elegant white floral, this elegant jasmine has a type of presence that is hard to replicate. And again, that's why it reminds me of Reflection Man and Reflection 45. Those fragrances also have this sort of feeling and vibe to it. And yes, ingredient-wise, I think that Reflection Man and Reflection 45 is leaps and bounds above this. But the kind of vibe you're getting, and if you like that intent, and if you like that scent profile, you can really replicate it with this at a fraction of the price, actually. The similarity with the Amouages does not stop at the white florals and at the jasmine. It actually continues down in like the base notes and the heart notes, because basically the base for this is this creamy, clean sandalwood. There is an edge, there is a specific dirty edge to this fragrance. And I would go as far as to say that this is like a skanky jasmine fragrance. So you get this like really subtle but great contrast between like this clean jasmine, this clean sandalwood, and then there's something wild under it. It might be a little bit of a orris root, something like that, or it might be a little bit of a dirty sandalwood note. I'm not really sure what it is. It might be like a dirty jasmine note. But there's something in there that sort of gives me, again, that changes the person wearing it from a high status, law-abiding citizen to a high status drug dealer. So there is that kind of a edge to it. I think it's really sexy. This is a beautiful scent for men and women. It's really unisex. If a man wears it, I think that there is some sort of a confidence about it. You have this little dirtiness in the background that makes it so that no one would ever think that this is a women's fragrance whatsoever. And at the same time, if a woman wears it, you have this like imagery of a woman, very feminine, but at the same time she's like ballsy, she's like a boss woman. It's really great. I think that this gives this like really like it stares you down, the fragrance or the wearer of the fragrance. It really empowers you in that way. And for some reason, the imagery that I'm getting of this person always falls back to like the high status. It's not that this is exceedingly luxurious or elegant. It's just that the person wearing this gives me the vibes of they know what they want and they get what they want. The wear experience of this fragrance is pretty linear. Throughout the wear, the transition is low. So what might happen is, instead of like opening super floral, super white floral and jasmine, you might end up with a little bit more of a lactonic, almost like milky, creamy sandalwood base with that little bit of a skanky musk in there. There is some sort of a furry signature Gualtieri, I guess. That's the signature musk that Gualtieri uses, which is kind of like, it's like a furry blanket. It feels like a fur of an animal in a way. And that might also be the kind of like the skanky component. It's really hard to pinpoint. This is pretty unique. Again, it does give me the amouage vibes as a scent profile, really. The amouage is just cleaner and just more law-abiding. I don't know why I keep saying this, but that's what I'm getting. The longevity and projection of China White is absolutely excellent. The longevity is a full day. I would argue that this lasts longer than Reflection Man for sure. It lasts about the same as Reflection 45, but Reflection 45 projects less, so it's a lot more like subtle and elegant. I think that Reflection 45 is a lot more complex, as I said. There's a lot more layers, but from afar, I really would just challenge anyone to just tell them apart. It's really, really difficult. Today at work, I wore China White on my one arm and Reflection 45 on the other one, just because I wanted to make sure of this comparison. I wanted to make sure what I was saying was somewhat relevant. And actually, I was surprised of how close they were. I kept going back and forth. Yes, this one has a little bit of that dirtiness in there, like the muskiness or the skankiness, and Reflection 45 has none of that. But other than that, the blast of white flowers and the quality of the white flowers, I think is pretty comparable. I mentioned that this is incredibly versatile, and yes, this is very versatile because it's unisex. Anyone could wear this, any age could wear this, but also you can wear it in any kind of situation. So the use case is exceptionally large. You can pretty much wear this to the supermarket in your sweats, to the gym, or to a business meeting. Ideally, I think that since this is pretty potent, it falls into the Nasomatto Pardon type of fragrance use case, meaning that it is elegant, and since it's so potent and projecting, you might want to dress the part in a way. But again, if you go casual, no one will bat an eye and no one will see any kind of weird contrast to this. Season-wise, this is also great. You can wear this in pretty much any kind of temperature. I might just avoid the highest of heat just because of how dense and like how texturized the jasmine is in here. If you start sweating, it might be a little bit too much. Jasmine is inherently a little bit sweet. It doesn't make this fragrance sweet per se. It doesn't have any sort of like a vanilla or an added sweetness to it. It's just naturally florally sweet in a way. So, and jasmine is a pretty dense flower, so I don't really recommend wearing this in the highest of heat. But for anything else, for a temperature controlled environment like an office, this is absolutely perfect. I think that if you want to wear this to the office, you sort of have to learn how to deal with the potency of it. You can probably overspray something like a citrus fragrances and get away with it, but if you overspray this, I think that you're gonna choke yourself out and choke other people out. It's just really dense and potent. And even just the 2 sprays that I put on my arm right now, maybe just because I'm used to having the scent all around me all day, I'm really tasting it. So you have to be careful. Just go in moderation. It's a good thing, it's not a bad thing. It means that the fragrance will last you a lot longer. Overall, I'm really happy with this. Yes, it's not the fun, controversial Nasomatto fragrance that maybe you were expecting or that maybe you wanted, but it's actually a Nasomatto that you can wear every day. Wear it, and maybe you can even signature scent this because it's really that good and that versatile.